share with you some profound habits that truly transform my life in just 1 week. It might sound too good to be true, but when you make a decision to change, your entire reality begins to shift. Change doesn't have to be slow. When you commit with intention and purpose, miracles happen, small ones, big ones, and everything in between. These habits are not complex. They are not out of reach for anyone, and they don't require fancy tools or resources. What they need is your dedication, your openness, and your willingness to step into a higher vibration of living. Let's begin by talking about the power of self-affirmation. This is the habit that unlocks so much potential within us. Every morning before I even get out of bed, I begin repeating positive affirmations aloud. Simple things like, I am enough, I am deserving of love, I attract abundance. At first, it felt strange. My mind wanted to resist, saying, this isn't true. Or who do you think you are to say these things? But I persisted. I realized that the resistance was nothing more than my old limiting beliefs trying to keep me in the same patterns. By the end of the first day, I noticed a likeness. The world seemed kinder, more open. By the third day, my self-talk changed completely. I started catching myself mid-sentence when all negative thoughts arose and replacing them with these new affirmations. By the end of the week, it was automatic. My mind began to speak to me in words of love, compassion, and possibility. And that was when I truly understood the power of self-affirmation. The second habit was one of forgiveness. Forgiveness is often misunderstood. We think it's about releasing someone else from the wrong they did. But truly, forgiveness is about releasing ourselves from the burden of anger, resentment, and pain. I made a list of all the people, situations, and even versions of myself that I was holding onto with bitterness. Every evening, I would take one name, one memory, one hurt, and practice forgiveness. I would sit quietly, close my eyes, and say, I forgive you. And I set myself free. The first few times it was difficult. The pain would come rushing back, and I'd feel like I was reliving the experience all over again. But I kept going. By the end of the week, I felt lighter, more open, and so much freer. It was as though chains that had been wrapped around my heart for years had suddenly been unlocked. When we forgive, we create space for love and joy to return to us. We reclaim the energy that was trapped in the past and allow it to flow freely into the present. Another habit that completely shifted my perspective was practicing gratitude. You see, gratitude is the gateway to abundance. The more we focus on what we have, the more we attract into our lives. Every night before going to bed, I would write down 3 things I was grateful for. They didn't have to be big things. Sometimes it was as simple as being grateful for a delicious meal or a conversation with a friend. Other times it was deeper, like gratitude for the lesson a challenging situation brought me. By the end of the week, my focus had shifted entirely. Instead of waking up with worry or stress about what needed to be done or what might go wrong, I woke up feeling blessed. My heart felt full, and I realized that life with all its ups and downs is a gift. Gratitude became my way of communicating with the universe, and the universe responded by showing me even more to be thankful for. The next habit I adopted was mindfulness. We live in a world where it's so easy to get caught up in the past or the future, where distractions pull us in every direction. Mindfulness is about being fully present in the moment, right here, right now. For 1 week, I committed to being mindful in everything I did. Whether it was drinking a cup of tea, washing the dishes, or taking a walk, I did it with my full attention. I noticed the texture, the sound, the smell, and the feel of everything around me. When I was in conversation, I listened fully without thinking about my response. When I ate, I savored every bite instead of rushing through my meal. Mindfulness brought me back to the present, and in the present, I found peace. The mind quiets when you're fully in the moment. Anxiety about the future and regrets about the past fade away. In that space, I felt more connected to myself, more in tune with my surroundings, and more aligned with the flow of life. It's incredible how much clarity and calmness can arise simply by being present. Finally, I embraced the habit of kindness. Not just kindness to others, but kindness to myself. Often we forget that self-love is the foundation for all other love. We give and give until we're empty, believing that's what it means to be kind. But kindness starts within. It's about speaking to ourselves with gentleness, taking care of our bodies, and honoring our needs. Throughout the week, I made it a point to practice small acts of self-kindness. Whether it was taking time to rest, treating myself to something special, or simply speaking to myself in a kinder tone, I made sure to prioritize my well-being. At the same time, I extended kindness to others in ways that felt effortless. I smiled at strangers, held open doors, gave compliments, and listened with my heart when others spoke. By the end of the week, I noticed a profound shift in how the world responded to me. When you act from a place of kindness, you attract kindness. The energy you give out is the energy that returns to you multiplied. These 5 habits may seem simple, but their impact is profound. In just 1 week, my outlook, my energy, and my interactions with the world had completely transformed. I felt lighter, more at peace, and deeply connected to the present moment. Life stopped feeling like a race and started feeling like a dance one that I could move through with grace, joy, and love. These habits continue to shape my life, not just for that week, but every day since. They have become the foundation upon which I build everything. You don't need to wait for the right moment to start. You don't need to have everything figured out. Just begin wherever you are with whatever you have. The smallest steps can lead to the most extraordinary changes. Transformation isn't something that happens in the distant future. It's available to you right now in this moment. When you choose to step into new habits, new ways of being, the universe meets you halfway. The first habit that transformed my life was the simple yet profound practice of self-affirmation. At first glance, it might seem like a small or even insignificant act, just repeating a few positive words to yourself each day. But once you dive into the practice with genuine intention, it becomes a tool of immense personal power. It's one thing to hear others say nice things to us, or receive validation from the outside world. However, the real transformation happens when we learn to speak to ourselves in the same loving, supportive way. This is because the words we speak to ourselves shape our inner narrative, and that inner narrative defines how we see the world and how the world responds to us. In the beginning, when I started affirming positive things about myself, it felt awkward. I would stand in front of the mirror and say things like, "I am worthy of love," or I'm enough. And deep inside, a voice would resist. That voice, the one that told me otherwise for years, was strong. It had built up layers of limiting beliefs, many of which I wasn't even aware of. I had been carrying these beliefs for so long that they had become part of how I identified myself. So when I tried to replace them with something new, they fought back. This resistance wasn't just psychological, it was almost physical. My body tensed up, my mind raced, and I felt uncomfortable. But I continued, trusting that beneath the discomfort, something powerful was unfolding. As I kept going with my affirmations, day by day I noticed something interesting. The discomfort began to fade. Instead of feeling like I was lying to myself, I started to feel a shift. Slowly but surely, the words began to feel true. The affirmations were no longer something I was trying to force into my reality. They were becoming my reality. I realized that affirmations are like seeds planted in the fertile soil of our minds. At first, you don't see anything. You just plant the seed and trust the process. But over time, with consistent repetition, those seeds begin to take root and grow. And once they take root, they start to bloom in every area of your life. One of the first changes I noticed was a shift in my self-talk. You know that inner voice that constantly chats away in your head, narrating your day, and passing judgment on everything. That voice had always been my harshest critic. It would point out every flaw, magnify every mistake, and drown out any moments of self-celebration. But after practicing affirmations for a few days, I started catching that voice mid-sentence. I'd be in the middle of a negative thought, something like, "I'm not good enough," and suddenly it was as if my brain paused and offered me a different option. Wait, what if I am good enough? It was subtle at first, but this small shift began to happen more and more often. With each affirmation, I felt more empowered. The words I spoke to myself became my new internal dialogue. Instead of being my worst critic, I was slowly becoming my best supporter. And this wasn't just happening in my mind, it was affecting my entire energy. I noticed that when I walked into a room, I felt more confident. I wasn't seeking external validation as much as before. I didn't need to constantly hear others tell me I was good enough because I had already affirmed it within myself. This inner shift changed how others responded to me. When you carry yourself with self-assurance, people pick up on that energy. You become a magnet for positive interactions and opportunities because your energy is aligned with worthiness and abundance. Another significant change I experienced through self-affirmation was in how I approached challenges. Before, when something difficult would arise, whether it was a stressful work situation or a personal struggle, I would immediately go into a spiral of self-doubt. I can't do this. This is too hard for me, or I'll never get through this with thoughts that often dominated my mind. But as I continued to affirm my strength and capability each day, those old patterns of thinking began to dissolve. I started facing challenges with a new mindset. Instead of approaching them from a place of fear and doubt, I began to see them as opportunities to grow. I would remind myself I am capable, I can handle this, and I trust in my ability to figure things out. This shift in perspective gave me the resilience to face obstacles head-on, knowing that I had the inner strength to overcome them. Perhaps one of the most beautiful outcomes of this practice was how it affected my relationship with myself. For years, like many people, I had been overly critical of my appearance, my abilities, and my worthiness. I had set impossible standards for myself and constantly felt like I was falling short. But through daily affirmations, I learned to treat myself with the same kindness and compassion that I would offer a dear friend. I started to embrace my imperfections, seeing them not as flaws, but as unique qualities. That made me who I am. This self-acceptance was incredibly liberating. I realized that I didn't have to be perfect to be worthy of love, success, or happiness. I was worthy simply because I existed. Affirmations also helped me release a lot of the emotional baggage I had been carrying. For years, the things I once believed about myself, that I wasn't good enough, that I didn't deserve. Certain things were all tied to old experiences, many of which I hadn't fully processed. But as I repeated positive affirmations, it felt like I was rewriting those old stories. I was reclaiming my power from the past and choosing to see myself in a new light. This wasn't about ignoring or dismissing the pain of the past, but rather it was about choosing not to let it define me anymore. Every affirmation was a declaration of who I was becoming, not who I had been. The beauty of self-affirmation is that it's a practice anyone can start, no matter where they are in life. It doesn't require special skills, knowledge, or resources. All it takes is a willingness to shift your internal dialogue and commit to showing up for yourself each day. It's in that daily commitment where the magic happens. With each repetition, the affirmations become more than just words. They become truths that you embody, and once you embody these truths, your entire reality begins to reflect them. In just 1 week of practicing self-affirmation, I experienced a deep internal shift. I felt more empowered, more confident, and more aligned with my true self. The changes were not just in my mind, but in how I interacted with the world. When you affirm your worth, your capabilities, and your deservingness of love and abundance, the universe responds in kind. You start to attract experiences, people, and opportunities that align with this new, empowered version of yourself. Self-affirmation is a simple yet powerful habit that has the potential to transform your life in ways you might not even expect. It begins with just a few words spoken with intention and belief. But those words carry the power to change everything. Forgiveness, often regarded as a liberating act, was the second habit that profoundly transformed my life in just 1 week. For many years, I carried the weight of unresolved grudges, anger, and resentment. I didn't realize how much these emotions were holding me back, both emotionally and mentally. While I had always heard about the power of forgiveness, I thought it was something abstract or reserved for major wrongdoings. However, when I made the conscious decision to truly embrace forgiveness, not just as an act toward others, but as a healing process for myself, my life began to change in ways I couldn't have imagined. At the core of forgiveness is the release of emotional baggage. We often hear the phrase, forgive and forget. But forgiveness doesn't mean pretending that hurtful events never happened. Instead, it's about acknowledging the pain, accepting that it occurred, and choosing to no longer let it define our present or future. Forgiveness, I learned, is an act of self-love. It's about freeing yourself from the chains of bitterness that weigh you down and keep you anchored to past wounds. By forgiving, we release the toxic energy that clings to us, allowing room for healing, growth, and new opportunities. In the beginning, the idea of forgiveness felt challenging. There were certain situations and people I thought I could never forgive. The hurt ran deep, and I believed that holding on to my anger would somehow protect me from being hurt again. I feared that forgiving someone would be equivalent to saying what they did was okay, or that it no longer mattered. But as I delved deeper into the practice of forgiveness, I came to understand that it wasn't about the other person at all. Forgiveness wasn't about condoning their actions or forgetting what had happened. It was about releasing myself from the emotional prison I had constructed. It was about reclaiming my power and choosing peace over pain. One of the first steps I took in my forgiveness journey was to acknowledge the pain I had been holding on to. For years, I had suppressed certain feelings, thinking that if I just ignored them, they would eventually go away. But emotions don't simply disappear. They linger, fester, and manifest in other areas of our lives. By refusing to confront my unresolved anger, I had allowed it to seep into my relationships, my work, and even my self-worth. I found that I was quicker to react negatively, more prone to feeling anxious or overwhelmed, and less willing to trust others. These behaviors, I realized, were symptoms of the unresolved pain I had been carrying. Once I acknowledged the hurt, I began to see the act of forgiveness as a way to release it. I started with small steps, reflecting on past events and recognizing the impact they had on me. Instead of pushing the feelings away, I allowed myself to feel them fully. I cried, journaled, and spoke aloud about the pain. This process was incredibly cathartic because it allowed me to honor my emotions rather than suppress them. In doing so, I began to understand that holding on to anger wasn't serving me. It was only perpetuating my suffering. Forgiveness became the key to breaking free from this cycle. Another significant shift came when I realized that forgiveness isn't about waiting for an apology. For so long, I thought I couldn't forgive certain people because they hadn't apologized or acknowledged their wrongdoings. But as I embraced forgiveness, I understood that waiting for someone else to take responsibility for my healing was giving away my power. Forgiveness is a personal decision, a choice to take control of your own emotional well-being. It's not contingent on someone else's actions or remorse. By forgiving, I was taking responsibility for my own peace of mind, regardless of whether or not the other person ever acknowledged their role in the situation. One of the most profound experiences in my forgiveness journey was learning to forgive myself. For years, I had been my own harshest critic. I would replay past mistakes over and over in my mind, punishing myself for things I couldn't change. I held on to guilt, regret, and shame, believing that I needed to be perfect or that I wasn't deserving of forgiveness. But just as I had learned to release anger toward others, I realized that I needed to extend the same compassion and understanding toward myself. Forgiving myself wasn't about ignoring my past mistakes. It was about accepting them, learning from them, and choosing to move forward with kindness and self-compassion. Self-forgiveness was perhaps the most challenging aspect of the process. It required me to confront my own shortcomings and acknowledge the ways I had hurt myself or others. But in doing so, I began to see those mistakes as opportunities for growth rather than as permanent stains on my character. I came to understand that I am not defined by my past, and that holding on to guilt only prevented me from fully embracing the present. This allowed me to let go of the shame and regret that had been weighing me down, and in doing so, I felt a newfound sense of freedom and inner peace. As I continued to practice forgiveness throughout the week, I noticed a significant change in my overall well-being. I felt lighter, more at ease, and more connected to the present moment. The emotional weight that I had been carrying for so long began to lift, and in its place, I felt a sense of calm and clarity. I also noticed improvements in my relationships. By letting go of resentment and anger, I was able to approach others with more compassion and understanding. I was no longer projecting my past hurts onto new situations or people, which allowed me to form deeper, more meaningful connections. Forgiveness, I realized, is an ongoing practice. It's not something that happens overnight or with a single decision. It requires patience, self-compassion, and a willingness to confront uncomfortable emotions. But the rewards of forgiveness are immeasurable. It's a gift that we give to ourselves, a gift of peace, freedom, and emotional healing. By choosing to forgive, we reclaim our power, break free from the chains of the past, and open ourselves up to a future filled with love, joy, and new possibilities. This taught me that holding on to anger and resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to suffer. The truth is, the only person truly affected by our refusal to forgive is ourselves. The emotional toll of carrying grudges can manifest in ways we don't even realize: stress, anxiety, a lack of trust, and even physical ailments. When we choose to forgive, we aren't just offering mercy to others, we are gifting ourselves the freedom to live fully and joyfully without the burden of the past weighing us down. Throughout this journey, I learned that forgiveness is one of the most powerful tools we have for emotional and spiritual growth. It allows us to break free from the victim mentality, reclaim our power, and create a life that is rooted in love, compassion, and understanding. And while it might not be easy, it is always worth it. Gratitude, the third transformative habit, has the power to completely shift our perspective on life. In just 1 week, practicing gratitude consistently changed my outlook, uplifted my spirits, and helped me to focus on the good, rather than getting lost in the negativity that often surrounds us. Gratitude, I learned, is not just a fleeting emotion or something we express during moments of happiness. It is a practice, a mindset that allows us to find joy and contentment in the present moment, no matter the circumstances. Before I embraced the habit of gratitude, I would often find myself focusing on what was wrong in my life. I would get caught up in the stresses of daily living, whether it was work, personal relationships, or even minor inconveniences. It was easy to let these frustrations cloud my perspective, making it seem as though life was full of struggles and setbacks. What I didn't realize at the time was that I was feeding a cycle of negativity. The more I focused on what was lacking, the more I felt dissatisfied and frustrated. This habit of focusing on the negative, while common for many of us, only serves to perpetuate a sense of lack and discontent. When I started my gratitude practice, I began by intentionally acknowledging the good things in my life, even the small things that I had previously taken for granted. At first, it felt almost mechanical, as though I was just going through the motions. I would write down a few things each day that I was grateful for, but it took time for me to truly feel the impact. Slowly, however, something shifted. As I consistently practiced gratitude, I began to notice a change in my mindset. I wasn't just writing down a list of good things to tick off a box. I was actually feeling more appreciative and connected to my life. One of the most profound realizations that came from practicing gratitude was understanding that it shifts our focus from what we don't have to what we do have. It's easy to get caught up in a mindset of scarcity, always wanting more, always striving for the next goal, the next achievement, or the next material possession. But this constant pursuit of more can leave us feeling empty and unfulfilled. When we practice gratitude, we begin to see that we already had so much to be thankful for. We bring our attention back to the present, acknowledging our lives from the love of friends and family to the beauty of nature, to the simple joys that come with each day. Gratitude also taught me to be present. Often we spend so much time thinking about the future or ruminating on the past that we forget to appreciate the present moment. But the present is where life happens. It's where joy, peace, and fulfillment reside. When we practice gratitude, we bring our attention back to the present, acknowledging the blessings that are right in front of us. This practice helped me to slow down and truly savor the moment. Whether it was enjoying a quiet cup of coffee in the morning, appreciating the warmth of the sun on my skin, or simply spending time with loved ones, gratitude helped me to be more mindful and fully engaged in my life. One of the surprising effects of gratitude is its ability to change our perception of challenges and hardships. Life is full of ups and downs, and it's easy to feel overwhelmed when things don't go as planned. But when we approach life with a grateful heart, even the difficult moments take on new meaning. Gratitude doesn't mean denying the pain or pretending that everything is perfect. Instead, it allows us to find lessons in growth in the midst of adversity. Through gratitude, I began to see that challenges are opportunities for growth, and that even in the hardest times, there is something to be thankful for. For example, during times of personal struggle, instead of focusing solely on the pain or frustration, I began to ask myself, what can I learn from this? What is this experience teaching me? Shifting my perspective in this way didn't take away the difficulty of the situation, but it helped me to approach it with a sense of curiosity and resilience. I became more open to the idea that every experience, whether positive or negative, so has value. Gratitude allowed me to see that even in the darkest moments there is light, and that every challenge brings with it an opportunity to grow stronger and wiser. Another powerful aspect of gratitude is how it enhances our relationships. When we focus on the good and others, we nurture deeper, more meaningful connections. So often, we can take the people in our lives for granted, focusing on their flaws or the ways they may have disappointed us. But when we practice gratitude, we begin to appreciate the qualities that make them special. I started expressing gratitude for the people in my life more often, whether it was thanking a friend for their support, appreciating a family member's kindness, or simply acknowledging the presence of loved ones in my life. This practice deepened my connections and fostered a greater sense of love and appreciation. In my relationships, gratitude also transformed the way I viewed myself. For years, I had been overly critical of myself, focusing on my shortcomings and areas where I felt I wasn't measuring up. But through gratitude, I began to see myself through a more compassionate lens. I started acknowledging my strengths, my growth, and the progress I had made. Instead of constantly striving for perfection, I learned to be grateful for who I am in this moment. This shift in self-perception allowed me to cultivate a greater sense of self-love and acceptance, which in turn boosted my confidence and sense of well-being. Incorporating gratitude into my daily routine didn't require major changes, but the impact it had was profound. I would begin each day by reflecting on 3 things I was grateful for, and at the end of the day I would do the same. This simple practice helped me to start and end each day on a positive note, focusing on the good rather than getting caught up in the stresses or challenges that might have arisen throughout the day. Over time, gratitude became a natural part of my thought process. I found myself automatically looking for things to appreciate, whether it was a kind gesture from a stranger or a beautiful sunset. The more I practiced gratitude, the more I noticed how it elevated my overall mood and mindset. It is as though gratitude became a lens through which I viewed the world, and through that lens life seemed brighter, more joyful, and more abundant. The act of appreciating what I already had created a ripple effect, attracting more positive experiences and opportunities into my life. It's true what they say. What you focus on expands. By focusing on gratitude, I attracted more things to be grateful for. In just 1 week, the practice of gratitude transformed my life in ways I never anticipated. It shifted my focus from lack to abundance, helped me cultivate deeper relationships, and even changed how I viewed challenges. This simple habit opened my heart to the beauty of the present moment and allowed me to see the richness of life that had always been there, waiting for me to notice. Gratitude is not a magic pill that erases all difficulties, but it is a powerful tool that empowers us to face life's ups and downs with grace, positivity, and a renewed sense of appreciation. And in that, it holds the power to truly transform not just a week, but a lifetime. The 4th habit that transformed my life in just 1 week was learning to embrace self-care fully. At first glance, self-care might seem like a buzzword, something that's often associated with spa days or taking time off from work. But I quickly realized that true self-care goes much deeper than that. It's about developing a deep sense of respect and love for yourself, and it manifests in the ways we treat our minds, bodies, and spirits on a daily basis. For a long time, I had been running on empty, constantly giving to others while neglecting my own needs. Like many people, I thought that being selfless meant putting everyone else's priorities ahead of my own. I was under the impression that self-care was a luxury, something to be indulged in only when I had the time or energy, which was rare. But this approach left me feeling drained, frustrated, and disconnected from my sense of well-being. I would often push through exhaustion, ignore my emotional needs, and neglect the small things that truly nourished me. It wasn't so sustainable. When I finally decided to make self-care a priority, I realized how transformative it could be. The change wasn't instantaneous, but as I began to implement small self-care practices throughout my day, I felt a noticeable shift. I started to feel more energized, more centered, and more connected to myself. Self-care, I learned, is not selfish. It's essential. When we take care of ourselves, we are in a better position to show up fully in the world, to be present for others, and to pursue our goals and dreams with passion and energy. The first step in embracing self-care was recognizing the importance of setting boundaries. For so long, I had said yes to everything. Every request, every favor, every project without stopping to consider whether I truly had the time or energy to take it on. I believed that saying no was a sign of weakness or selfishness, and I didn't want to let anyone down. But what I didn't realize was that by overextending myself, I was doing a disservice not only to myself, but to others as well. I couldn't give my best when I was constantly depleted. Setting boundaries was difficult at first. It required me to be honest with myself about what I could handle, and to communicate those limits to others. I learned to say no without guilt, understanding that protecting my time and energy was an act of self-love. By doing this, I created space in my life for rest, reflection, and the things that truly mattered to me. I began to honor my own needs, and as a result, I became more focused, more present, and more at peace. Setting boundaries wasn't about shutting people out. It was about creating a balance that allowed me to show up in the best way possible. The more I listened to my body, the more I realized that it wasn't about achieving some ideal version of health or fitness. It was about honoring my body as it is and giving it what it needed to thrive. I stopped punishing myself for not being perfect and started focusing on how I felt, rather than how I looked. This shift in mindset allowed me to develop a healthier relationship with my body, one that was rooted in kindness, respect, and gratitude. It wasn't about forcing myself to stick to a rigid routine, but about nurturing a sense of well-being that was sustainable and fulfilling. Self-care also extended to my mental and emotional health. I realized that taking care of my mind was just as important as taking care of my body. This meant carving out time for practices that nurtured my inner world, like meditation, journaling, and mindfulness. I began to prioritize quiet moments of reflection, allowing myself to process my thoughts and emotions without judgment. In a world that is constantly buzzing with distractions, this time for stillness became essential for my mental clarity and emotional balance. Meditation in particular became a powerful tool for self-care. It allowed me to reconnect with my inner self, to quiet the noise of the outside world, and to cultivate a sense of inner peace. Even just a few minutes of meditation each day helped me to feel more grounded and centered. I learned that self-care isn't always about doing, it's also about being. Being present with myself, being kind to myself, and being patient with my own growth. In these moments of stillness, I found a deeper sense of self-awareness and inner peace. Another key component of self-care was allowing myself to experience joy and pleasure without feeling guilty. For a long time, I had associated productivity with worthiness and believed that taking time for fun or relaxation was somehow frivolous. But joy is an essential part of life, and without it, we can become burnt out and disconnected from our sense of purpose. I began to make time for the things that brought me joy, whether it was spending time in nature, reading a good book, or simply enjoying a quiet cup of tea. These small moments of joy helped me to feel more alive and more connected to the present moment. In addition to joy, self-care also involved surrounding myself with positive, supportive people who uplifted me. I made a conscious effort to cultivate relationships that were based on mutual respect and understanding, and to distance myself from toxic dynamics that drain my energy. The people we surround ourselves with have a significant impact on our well-being, and I realized that part of self-care is creating an environment that nurtures growth, positivity, and love. By building a supportive community around me, I felt more empowered to prioritize my well-being and to stay committed to my self-care journey. Ultimately, self-care taught me the importance of balance. Life is full of demands and responsibilities, but when we neglect our own needs for too long, we risk losing touch with ourselves and our sense of well-being. Embracing self-care is about finding that balance between work and rest, between giving and receiving, between doing and being. It's about recognizing that we deserve to feel good, to take care of ourselves, and to live in a way that honors our mental, emotional, and physical health. When we make self-care a priority, we are not only investing in our own well-being, but also creating a foundation from which we can thrive in every area of our lives. The fifth habit that transformed my life in just 1 week was the practice of visualization. I had heard about visualization before, but I never fully understood its power until I decided to integrate it into my daily routine. Visualization is more than just daydreaming or thinking about what you want. It is a focused, intentional practice of imagining your desired outcome as if it has already happened. It engages your mind, emotions, and senses in a way that makes your vision feel real and achievable. This simple yet profound habit had an immediate and lasting impact on my mindset, my motivation, and my ability to manifest the things I wanted in my life. At first, visualization felt a bit unnatural to me. I wasn't used to dedicating time each day to sit quietly and focus on my goals and dreams. But once I gave it a try, I quickly realized that visualization wasn't just about imagining my future. It was about training my mind to align with my desires and beliefs. The process helped me become clear about what I wanted and allowed me to emotionally connect with those goals on a deeper level. Instead of just hoping for things to happen, I began to experience the emotions of already having them, and that shift in perspective made a world of difference. One of the key components of visualization is the feeling of already having achieved what you desire. This is where many people get stuck. They think visualization is just about seeing something in their mind's eye. But it's much more than that. It's about immersing yourself in the experience as if it's real right now. This means engaging all of your senses. For example, if your goal is to find your dream job, don't just visualize sitting in the office. Feel the excitement of being there. Smell the fresh coffee in the break room. Hear the conversations with your colleagues. And experience the pride of doing what they love. More vividly, your picture is in the video. More powerful your visualization practice will be. When I began incorporating visualization into my daily routine, I noticed that it not only boosted my confidence, but also shifted my energy in a positive way. I started visualizing my goals first thing in the morning and again before bed at night. I would spend just a few minutes imagining my life as if I had already achieved the things I was striving for. This simple practice helped to rewire my subconscious mind, making me more optimistic and focused on what was possible. Instead of dwelling on obstacles or limitations, I began to focus on solutions and opportunities. I became more proactive, more motivated, and more determined to make my vision a reality. One of the most surprising effects of visualization was how it helped me overcome self-doubt. Like many people, I had struggled with feelings of insecurity and fear of failure, but when I visualized myself succeeding, those doubts began to fade away. It wasn't that I suddenly had all the answers or that challenges disappeared, but my mindset shifted. Visualization allowed me to see myself in a new life, capable, worthy, and deserving of the things I wanted. This change in perception made it easier to take action toward my goals. Even when obstacles arose, I was no longer held back by the fear of what if, because in my mind, I had already succeeded. Another key benefit of visualization was how it helped me stay focused and clear-headed. Life can be hectic, and it's easy to get distracted or overwhelmed by day-to-day responsibilities. But when I started each day with a clear picture of what I wanted to achieve, it was like setting a compass for my actions. I knew exactly where I was headed, and that clarity made it easier to stay on track. Whenever doubts, distractions, or challenges came up, I would return to my visualization, practice to remind myself of my end goal. It was like a mental reset button that helped me stay grounded and focused no matter what was going on around me. The beauty of visualization is that it doesn't just apply to big long-term goals. It can be used for everyday challenges as well. For example, if I had an important meeting or presentation, I would spend a few minutes visualizing it going smoothly. I would picture myself speaking confidently, engaging with others, and achieving the outcome I wanted. This practice helped to calm my nerves and made me feel more prepared. It was like mentally rehearsing for success, and it worked wonders in boosting my confidence. In performance, visualization became a tool I could use in any situation to mentally prepare and set myself up for a positive outcome. Another crucial element of effective visualization is repetition. It's not enough to visualize your goals once and forget about them. I also found that visualization worked hand in hand with other positive helm. You're reinforcing those neural pathways in your brain, making the vision more ingrained in your subconscious mind. Over time, your brain begins to accept this vision as reality. and you start to naturally align your actions, beliefs, and habits with that vision. This is where the real power of visualization lies. It's not just a mental exercise, but a way of programming your mind for success. I also found that visualization worked hand in hand with other positive habits I was developing, like gratitude and self-care. When I combined visualization with gratitude, I wasn't just focusing on what I wanted in the future, I was also appreciating what I had in the present. This created a powerful cycle of positivity. I was grateful for the progress I was making, and that gratitude fueled my motivation to continue moving toward my goals. Visualization helped me to see the big picture while staying grounded in the present moment, which made the journey toward my goals feel more fulfilling and enjoyable. In addition to its emotional and mental benefits, visualization also had a profound impact on my physical well-being. When I visualized myself as healthy, energized, and vibrant, I found that I naturally made healthier choices throughout the day. I was more inclined to eat nourishing foods, stay active, and prioritize rest because I had already envisioned myself as someone who takes care of their body. Visualization helped me to create a strong connection between my mind and body, and that alignment made it easier to stay committed to my health and wellness goals. Perhaps one of the most magical aspects of visualization is how it invites opportunities and synchronicities into your life. When you focus on a particular goal or outcome, you begin to notice things in your environment that align with that vision. It's as if the universe starts to conspire in your favor. You meet the right people, come across the right resources, or stumble upon the perfect opportunity, all because you've been directing your energy and attention toward your desired outcome. Visualization helps to tune your mind to the frequency of your goals, making it easier to attract and recognize opportunities when they arise. In just 1 week, these 5 life-changing habits transform not only how I approach each day, but how I view myself and my potential. By committing to gratitude, mindfulness, affirmations, visualization, and self-care, I created a foundation for growth, happiness, and success that continues to evolve. These practices reminded me that true change doesn't require grand gestures or drastic shifts. It begins with small, intentional steps that we take daily. The power to transform our lives lies within us, and by embracing these habits, I unlock the deeper sense of purpose, clarity, and joy that will carry me forward in every aspect of life.